What if humans could live for 500 years? Picture this. A baby is born, not into 70 years of possibility, but into 500. A half-millennium life. Childhood stretching into decades, adulthood spanning centuries, old age itself longer than entire civilizations in our world. In this alternate reality, human biology has cracked the secret of extreme longevity. Our cells resist decay, our DNA repairs flawlessly, our hearts beat steadily for half a millennium. But with this gift comes consequence. Societies bend under the weight of people who never truly leave. Leaders rule not for terms, but for centuries. Families grow tangled across 10 generations still alive together. Knowledge piles up like mountains, but so do regrets and scars. Tonight, we will explore the story of the 5th-century human. We will begin with their biology, reshaped to endure centuries. We will move through their civilizations, stretched across the lifespans of immortal leaders and artists. And we will finally confront the psychological and cultural price of living so long. When time itself no longer feels like a gift, but like an unending horizon. This is not just a dream of immortality. It is a warning. What humanity becomes when life lasts 500 years. Evolution built us fragile. Our bodies break down in less than a century. Our minds fade. Our cells rebel against us. But in this alternate path, the genome learned resilience. The cellular clock rewritten. The secret lies in telomeres, the end caps of DNA that fray with age. In this world, telomerase never shuts off. Chromosomes replicate flawlessly, and cells divide for centuries without slipping into senescence. Mitochondria replace themselves with clockwork precision. Proteins fold without error. Cancer, that rebellion of the body, is outmaneuvered by hyperactive immune sentinels. The result is not invulnerability, but durability. A body of 5 centuries ages slowly, almost imperceptibly. At 100 years, a person still looks 30. At 300, gray hair creeps in, bones stiffen, but vitality remains. Only in the final century does age truly bite. Organs faltering, memory fraying, life folding toward its end. Childhood and youth stretched. Thin childhood itself is redefined. A sleepless toddler still takes a decade to learn language, but education can now span 50 years. Adolescence, those volatile years of hormones and rebellion, lasts half a century. Imagine a teenager for 50 years, passionate, restless, burning to define themselves. Societies must adapt. Laws extend parental care not to age 18, but to age 80. Apprenticeships stretch for decades. Youth lingers like a storm that will not pass. A century of adulthood. By the age of 100, a person enters true adulthood. Muscles and bones are at their peak. Minds are agile, resilient. Careers last centuries. A single physician might train for 50 years, then practice for 200, mentoring 10 generations of students. A builder might work on cathedrals, knowing they will live to see the spire finished, 300 years after the first stone was laid. Fertility and population biology does not forgive everything. To balance such longevity, fertility declines. Women can conceive until age 200, but cycles are rare. Men remain fertile longer, but sperm counts dwindle. The planet, otherwise overwhelmed by 5 centuries of life, survives only because births are few. Children are treasures. Each one is the product of immense patience and planning. The unyielding memory. The brain, too, evolves. Neurons resist decay. Synapses refresh with efficiency. Memory is vast, centuries of experience layered like geological strata. But this blessing has a sharp edge. Trauma never fades. Mistakes linger. Regrets pile like ruins, never buried. A soldier remembers every death he saw 2 centuries ago. A widow carries the face of her first love across 300 years of silence. Without the mercy of forgetting, humans become palimpsests of memory, layered, haunted, and wise. In biology alone, the 5-century human is both miracle and burden. Youthful for centuries, fertile with difficulty, and cursed with memories that never die. What kind of society emerges when individuals live for half a millennium? Dynasties without end. In our world, kings rise and fall within decades. In theirs, a monarch can rule for 200 years. Empires no longer shift with generations. They ossify under long-lived rulers. Wars are not decided by new blood, but by ancient grudges carried across centuries. A general who lost a battle in his youth may spend 300 years plotting revenge. History slows down. In our world, revolutions erupt with each new generation. In theirs, revolutions must wait for rulers to weaken after centuries. Progress is measured not in decades, but in epochs of leadership. Families tangled in time. The family becomes a labyrinth. A single person may live to see 10 generations of descendants. Great-great-great-grandchildren sit at the same table as their 450-year-old matriarch. Inheritance law collapses. Who owns the farm when the founder still lives? Who leads the clan when the elders never die? Families fracture not along lines of time, but of patience. Marriage becomes experimental. Few commit for 5 centuries. Instead, unions form and dissolve across phases of life. A person may marry 3 or 4 times, each spanning a century, each leaving descendants and stories behind. The idea of forever loses meaning when forever is half a millennium. Education and knowledge. Education transforms. Universities do not graduate students after 4 years. They host them for 40. Scholars accumulate centuries of expertise. A single mathematician might solve problems our world took millennia to crack. Libraries swell with contributions from authors who write for 200 years. But stagnation lurks. Old masters dominate their fields for centuries, intimidating new voices. The young struggle to innovate under the weight of ancient giants. Art risks calcification, science conservatism, politics stagnation. Progress comes not from fresh generations, but from long-lived thinkers finally growing restless. Wars without mercy. Armies are terrifying. Soldiers train for decades, then fight for centuries. Veterans carry not one campaign, but lifetimes of battles. Their tactics sharpen endlessly. Their grudges last forever. Wars last longer too. A conflict between 2 kingdoms might rage for 200 years, neither side yielding, because their leaders still live, still remember, still refuse to forgive. The weight of memory. The greatest cost of 5 centuries is not biology or politics, it is memory. Humans were not designed to hold centuries of grief. In our world, death and forgetting allow us to renew. In theirs, sorrow never fades. A widow remembers her first husband for 400 years. A soldier carries nightmares for centuries. The accumulation of scars makes the old weary long before their bodies falter. Therapies emerge. Curated forgetting becomes a practice, where memories are erased selectively to relieve the mind. Some choose to forget entire centuries, trading knowledge for peace. Others cling to every memory, growing bitter and heavy. The crisis of meaning, purpose, phrase. When you have centuries to live, urgency disappears. A project can always wait. A dream can always be postponed. Many drift, wandering through centuries without direction. Depression blooms like a shadow over the long-lived. Religion evolves to answer this. Faiths promise not eternal life, that is already theirs, but eternal renewal. Ceremonies of rebirth, symbolic deaths, second childhoods every 100 years. Humans reinvent themselves, shedding names and careers to escape the crushing sameness of 500 years. The loss of wonder children still feel wonder, but adults, after centuries, grow numb. Sunsets, once miraculous, become routine after 10,000 of them. Love, once burning, dims when stretched across centuries. To feel alive, the 5th-century human must seek extremes, voyages to dangerous frontiers, dangerous experiments, risky pleasures. Risk becomes the cure for boredom. Many die not of age, but of daring. The final century. The last 100 years are not merciful. Bodies age, but slowly. Minds fray before flesh fails. Dementia becomes common, not at 70, but at 400. The ancient wander cities as living monuments, respected, pitied, feared. Their voices carry centuries of wisdom, but their eyes are heavy with lifetimes of sorrow. When death finally comes, it is not seen as a tragedy, but as a release. Funerals are not for mourning, but for gratitude. The closing of a life so vast it held 5 centuries of stories. And so, what would humanity become if we lived for 500 years? Stronger, wiser, more advanced, but also heavier, slower, burdened by time. Civilizations would rise with monumental patience. Wars would stretch across lifetimes. Art would endure, and families would weave into knots of memory. But the human soul, stretched across centuries, would strain beneath the weight of experience. Perhaps the gift of mortality is not cruelty, but mercy. To forget, to renew, to live with urgency because time is short. A 5-century life offers much, but it risks losing what makes life meaningful: its brevity, its fragility, its demand that we cherish moments precisely because they are fleeting. So I leave you with a question. If you could live for 500 years, what would you do with your time? Would you master every art, learn every science, travel every land? Or would you find yourself longing, as these long-lived humans do, for the beauty of an ending? 500 years. What would you do with the time? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe.